planning is, why are we really doing this, right? Why do you need to create your estate planning? I think that's very important because most people know that they need a will and trust, but really they don't know why. They have bits and pieces of information. Oh, I need to protect my assets. Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean, right? So our job is the educational piece. So with Netlaw, I think the reason that we do this is on this screen. Family. That's what I always talk about all the time. Is I don't talk about using estate planning as a tool. Okay, you passed away, so let's get your assets. I never talk about that. I always talk about how do we protect our family. And one of the big reasons of how we protect our family is estate planning. And how do we do that? Well, we do that with our wills and trust, right? So when I sit down with a family and I start talking to them about estate planning, I always bring up will and trust first because that's what everybody knows, right? But then I kind of explain to them, well, why are we doing a will and trust? And these reasons right here on the screen is exactly why we do it. We need to name executors and trustees. Our executors and trustees are the people who are going to be in charge when we pass away. Your executors will make sure that everything is handled from your will side. So your executors will handle the distribution of assets in your will. They will make sure that all your creditors are paid. They will make sure that your taxes are filed. They're going to handle pretty much everything that has to do within your will. Trustees handle all the major assets that you have transferred into your trust to avoid probate. We'll talk about avoiding probate later. But what we're doing is we're going to list people, and usually this is family members, very close friends, who are going to be named to take care of everything when we pass away, whether it's in our will or it's in our trust. The other reason that we set up our will and trust is to make sure that all of our children are protected. I talk about this, and really this is the first thing that I start talking about when I know that my clients have underage children. I want to make sure that, because job number one as a parent, we always want to protect our kids, right? But how do we do that? Within the will, hey, if something happens to mom and dad, who's going to take care of your kids? That is very, very important. And it perks their ears up right away. If something crazy happens, a car wreck, plane wreck, we saw it with COVID when both parents got deathly ill. What happens to the kids? And we need to list those people who are going to have custody and control of the children's inheritance if something crazy happens to mom and dad. And then the last reason is specific bequest. Listing all of our assets and who those beneficiaries are. Why do we need to do that? Because one, we want to keep the government out of control of what happens to our assets, right? So in the will, you're going to list your property, cars, bank accounts, life insurance policies, 401ks, jewelry, fine art, right? All of our major assets, we want to list those in our will and name the beneficiaries of who will receive that. We're also going to do it to stop the family from fighting. How many times have we heard when, mom and dad pass away, the kids start fighting over everything because there was no will in place? This stops all of that. We're listing everything and who the beneficiaries are. So this is always the first screen that I show my clients. Why are we really doing this? It's so that we can get everything in place. We're going to get our executors and trustees in place so that they know what to do as soon as the time happens. We're going to protect our kids and make sure that they go to the exact people of our choosing, not the government's. And we're going to list all of our assets, right? So not only do you get your will and trust, but you get your power of attorney. I always talk to them about this because this is important, especially if you're talking to maybe a couple, let's say a husband and wife, and their parents are still alive. I'm going through this right now with my parents. Their minds aren't as sharp as they once were. They're in their 80s, right? So now that I am their power of attorney and my brother is their power of attorney, we can come in and make sure that we handle all of their financial payments, paying the bills, paying the credit card bills, writing all the checks. We can handle all of that for them. So it's very powerful. So it's not just a document. If we get hurt or we get sick, somebody can come in and do it for us, which is true. But I always look at it from the point of view of Hey, don't forget that your parents need this as well. And the healthcare documents too. These are very important. 3 healthcare documents. So if you ever get sick, you're in the hospital, you're in a coma, you have your decisions already laid out. What do you want to happen? Who do you want to make the decisions? And what happens at end of life? You get to decide all of that now while we're healthy, instead of having family members try to make that decision, doctors try to make that decision. So we're going to have all of these documents in an all-inclusive plan. And this is the plan. So this is what you sell to your clients every day. One plan covers both spouses, and they get all the documents that we talked about: the will, the power of attorney, the healthcare documents, the trust. We even have a pet trust. So if your clients are pet lovers, great. They can leave money behind for the well-being of their pets. The one thing that I didn't cover before, but I want to talk to you now because this is important. So with me, if I know they have children under the age of 18, I talk about guardians first. But the first thing that I always talk to, along with the guardians, is the children's trust. It's that second line item there. Children's trust is where when you create your will, and this is included in the trust as well, but you get to dictate how much of the inheritance and at what age your children will receive their inheritance. Now, if we do nothing and we don't have any documents, they will receive everything at age 18, which sounds great, right? So mom and dad pass away, the kids are going to receive a lot of money. But let's remember, they're 18. Now, I'm not going to speak for you or your clients, but I always say this. If my parents would have passed away in today's age, when I was 18, just think what we're going to get. Proceeds from the house, hopefully 2 life insurance policies, hopefully 2 401ks. That's a lot of money coming in at age 18, right? This children's trust allows you to take that money, not give it all to an 18-year-old, but string it out. And you can string it out all the way to age 35. Because you know what would happen if I would have got $1 million at age 18? I would have been broke at 20. Because I didn't come see Poonam and say, hey, guess what I need? Financial advice, right? I'm 18. I'm going to go buy a Mustang, video games, blow it on a girlfriend, right? We're not thinking of the future then. This is called protection from the grave, right? Even if mom and dad aren't there, they're still protecting the kids. Very powerful when you sit down with your clients. And you can use that exact saying that I just did, because it works every time. Yes, they smile. Yes, they laugh about it. But you know what? It's true. It's 100% true. So when you sit down and talk about the documents, here's some key things that your clients need to know. Once they purchase the plan, and remember the plan's $600, there's no monthly fees, there's no yearly fees. Once you have the plan, you have full access to your account. Most companies charge anywhere from about $10 to $30 a month. We don't charge anything. That's huge for your clients because they have full access not only to create their documents, but to go back in and edit them at any time should any life events come up. And now, of course, we can all do joint trust in all 50 states. This is huge. It used to be just 11 states. Now it's all 50. So that's kind of a little bit planning is why are we really doing this, right? Why do you need to create your estate planning? I think that's very important because most people know that they need a will and trust, but really they don't know why. They have bits and pieces of information. Oh, I need to protect my assets. Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean, right? So our job is the educational piece. So with Netlaw, I think the reason that we do this is on this screen. Family. That's what I always talk about all the time. Is I don't talk about using estate planning as a tool. Okay, you passed away, so let's get your assets. I never talk about that. I always talk about how do we protect our family. So that's kind of a little bit